Okay, thank you all for coming, and I want to thank Senators Durbin, Booker, and Harris for joining me today. Now, Senate Democrats just sent a very clear signal that the Senate Republican Justice Act lacks the substance and the strong, desperately needed reforms to stop police brutality against black Americans. This bill lost because it was woefully inadequate. It never would have passed, and McConnell provided no path to improve it. So it was going to lose the minute he put it together, and the more cynical among us would say that's why he did it. And we were overwhelmingly supported by the entire civil rights community. I have a letter here signed by 136 civil rights organizations. And I want to read you how they characterize the bill that Leader McConnell put on the floor. This bill woefully falls short of the comprehensive reform needed to address the current policing crisis and achieve meaningful law enforcement accountability. It is deeply problematic to meet this moment with a menial, incremental approach that offers more funding to police and few policies to effectively address the constant loss of black lives at the hands of police. We therefore urge you to oppose the Justice Act and vote no on the motion to proceed. So Leader McConnell would like you to think, oh, these are Democrats playing games? No. These are civil rights groups who have been fighting for these things for decades, saying do the right thing, which clearly Leader McConnell didn't. There were very strong words from Ben Crump, the attorney for the families of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin and Tamir Rice. So when Leader McConnell scheduled a vote, he led the Senate into a cul-de-sac, a dead end, a bridge to nowhere. His claim that he wanted a bipartisan bill was belied by the fact that there was no Democratic input into either the bill or the procedure. None. Mr. McConnell, bipartisan means what it says. You work with both parties. You don't put the bill together yourself, declare what the procedure is, and then say you have a bipartisan bill. And when you don't work in a bipartisan way, you will inevitably fail. But all is not lost. There is a way forward. This does not mark the end of the road, and all hope can stay high. Because now, Leader McConnell can do just what we asked him to do. Put together a group of Democrats and Republicans, come up with a bipartisan bill, put it on the floor, allow it for amendments, and a bill can pass and go to conference in the Senate. We know when Leader McConnell is motivated to pass legislation, he can make it happen. He sets up bipartisan working groups. He sends the bill through committee with Democrats and Republicans as sponsors. So the question is, are Senate Republicans interested in passing legislation, or are they only interested in saying they tried so they can throw up their hands? And one of the things that constrained our Republican friends is obeisance to Donald Trump. Yesterday, Donald Trump issued racist statements. Yesterday, Donald Trump said we should venerate the statue of Confederate war soldiers who fought against the Union and fought for slavery. How can we pass a bill when they want to please Donald Trump? We can't. But we are serious. Not only are we serious, the millions who march in the streets are serious. They're going to continue to march, and we are going to continue to fight. And my prediction is that sooner than you think, you will find a better bill on the floor with a better procedure that has a decent chance of passing the House. We think the pressure on the Republicans will be large and enormous. We think the marching and desires of the American people will continue to be made clear. We think Republicans will know they flaunt that at their peril. We think we can get it done. In conclusion, if Americans of all ages, colors, and faiths can come together in a righteous chorus, calling for change as they have in big cities and small towns in America, then the Senate, Democrats and Republicans, can do the same. We very much want to. I fully believe this chamber can do the right thing and craft a bipartisan bill together. We've done it before. We can do it again. I yield to Senator Durbin once I get all my papers in order.
Let me say at the outset that what we just witnessed on the floor of the United States Senate should come as no surprise. This is the Senate according to Mitch McConnell. What we've seen now, and it's been repeated in the past, is the Senate as he understands it and as he leads it. How good a model is it under our Constitution? This last February, 70 former senators, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, sent a letter to the United States Senate saying that we were not meeting our constitutional responsibilities. I'd like to quote from a couple sentences in that letter and ask you if this doesn't sound like what we are enduring and living through at this moment. From these former senators, it says, "Our concern is that the legislative process is no longer working in the Senate. Several factors may be cited. Senate committees have lost responsibility for writing legislation. Rules allowing extended debate, a feature of the Senate essential to protecting minorities, have been abused as the filibuster and cloture have shut down the Senate floor. It is now commonly said it takes 60 votes to pass anything in the Senate. This is new and obstructionist." That is the Senate according to Mitch McConnell. What he offered us was not a bipartisan bill constructed in a committee, which incidentally he appoints a majority to, brought to the floor and then duly debated open for amendment. No, for him it was a take it or leave it motion to proceed vote with no promises as to what would follow from that. And we know what would follow, very little progress. I've been engaged and involved in some efforts around here that have made a difference. In every single one of them, there's been a bipartisan beginning. Whether we were talking about immigration reform, whether we're talking about criminal justice reform, it starts with bipartisanship. And why? Because if you need 60 votes, you need both parties. And that means both parties have to buy into it from the beginning. That's the part that McConnell left out, perhaps intentionally. But the need is still there. The only solace I take from the fact that this delay has taken place in our efforts to bring justice to America is the fact that that is the story of justice in America. There are always delays. There are always challenges. There are always disappointments. And the ultimate victor is going to be the person who can endure those and continue to focus on the real goal, the real prize. Our prize is to bring to this country the dream that our founding fathers promised us, a nation with justice for all. The young people marching in the street, black, white, and brown, have all sent the message to us as grown-ups: go to work. Remove the shadow of racism from our lives and the lives of our children. We can't let this situation today delay us in any way. We've got to continue to press forward.
Senator Booker.
I want to just thank Senate Democrats for the great level of unity we show today in not participating, not cooperating with what was Mitch McConnell's attempt to lead us into a cul-de-sac, to lead us into a dead end when it comes to the issue of policing reform, and an issue that so many Americans in all 50 states are demanding we do something real about, something substantive about. You know, Mitch McConnell has described himself as the Grim Reaper. And I think that this is the moment we're going to see. Are we going to allow him to kill any hope of getting a bill on the floor that will actually create the kind of reforms that in America, Republicans and Democrats want? That's the test of this moment. And I, for one, am joining with my colleagues in making the same plea we did yesterday. It's time for us to stop the partisan attempts to turn the page and to stay on this issue, to do the work, to come together, and to make sure that we deliver the kind of reform and the kind of justice that this nation has been seeking, that civil rights activists, that people going back all the way from Jim Crow to the Reconstruction period, to even in the aftermath of slavery, is looking for justice in America. And the final thing I just want to say is to the activists: stay at it. Everything that we're doing right now has been given strength because of your demands for justice. And I hope that the pressure stays. I hope that all 50 states, hundreds of thousands of Americans, we continue to pressure because, as was said by a great abolitionist, if there's no struggle, there will be no progress. Let's keep at the struggle. Let's keep pushing. I believe that this is not an end, that if we continue to fight, this could be a moment of beginning where we actually get the work done here in the Senate.
Thank you, Senator Booker. Senator Harris.
Thank you. I want to thank all of our colleagues for their work today, which is to not fall into a political trap, to not take crumbs on the table when there is a hunger that America has for real solutions to a very real problem. And I think it's of note that there's a great diversity within our caucus, the Democratic caucus, geographic diversity, a diversity of priority issues. But there was an incredible consensus around this issue. And so I also will say to those who ask, well, did you miss a moment? No, well, no, this is part of a movement. There's a movement at play here. And that movement did not just start a few weeks ago. That movement started before Emmett Till. That movement was active and at play during the beating of Rodney King. We are part of a movement that started a long time ago, and this movement will not be deterred. This movement will not accept anything less than real, substantial, substantive solutions, which are the solutions that we have offered in our Justice and Policing bill. And so let the beginning be today of a real conversation where the United States Congress will do its job in meeting the moment, in responding to the demands of the people, and doing what is well within our grasp to take at least one step closer to that ideal of equal justice under the law.
Questions on this subject?
Thank you, Senator. What has to be in a police reform bill for Democrats to support it? What are your red lines?
Well, look at the red lines. We don't draw red lines. Look at the Justice and Policing Act. That is a good bill. We'd like to see it pass.
Does the failure today make
I couldn't hear you, ma'am.
Does the failure today make it easier to begin negotiations?
I think so. You know, Mitch McConnell has a way of trying to bully us around, and he thinks he can get his way. And if past his prologue, all this year and last year when he tried on a major issue, our caucus held together, and each time he came back, whether it was the last 3 COVID bills, and there are many, many other instances. And I believe that the Republican Party sees the handwriting on the wall. They see what the American people feel. And they know now that while the House is going to succeed in passing a bill, the Senate won't. And that falls on McConnell's shoulders. He's the Senate leader. He knows how to pass a bill. He set up something here so it wouldn't pass. The blame, more than on anyone else, falls on McConnell's shoulders for not being a straight shooter on this one. But I think now there's a real chance that he failed at his gambit, that the people in his caucus, and more importantly, the people of America, will put pressure, moral pressure, political pressure, every kind of pressure on him, and he may come back and say, let's negotiate a good bill. That's our hope, our prayer, and what we will work for.
What's your reaction? Do you think it was appropriate for Speaker Pelosi to say that Republicans are, quote, getting away with murder of George Floyd?
Pelosi's answered that question herself, and what she said was fine with me. That's it? Okay. Yes.
I was going to follow up on Sarah's question. So do you think that it's still possible that we could see a police reform bill this Congress?
Yes. I think it's a better chance than people think, because the kids are out there in the streets, the adults are out there in the streets, America's moral suasion. We're a moral country fundamentally. We get off track all the time. But when our better angels are appealed to, as what's happening now, we often rise to the occasion. And I think the Senate can, as long as Mitch McConnell sees the light. Yes?
What are you going to do next today? Are you going to reach out to Majority Leader McConnell? Are you going to wait for him to come to you?
We're certainly going to try to talk with, many of us will be talking with our Republican colleagues about the path forward. Thank you, everybody.